We need it. Oxygen. It's why we
Hey everyone, welcome back to Small Biz Stories. Every week we bring you different entrepreneurs and small business owners who have, well, they've figured out one thing and how to do it really well. They've also had bumps along the way and they share those too. The whole goal is so that we can help you, our audience, understand what you can do better or do differently. So today's guest, Matthew Stafford, who's the CEO of Build, Grow, and Scale, has helped many clients hit the not one, but $10 million mark. And he's a specialist in e-commerce. So with that, Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to having the conversation.
Oh, we all are, because we all want to know. And first we'll start off, what are you good at, Matthew? Tell us what your special sauce is. What are you really good at?
Yeah, we're very good at looking at the data and the analytics for your website and then being able to use that to create predictable success. And we've been able to replicate that across all different niches and fields.
Well, let's just jump up front because I'm one of those people. I'm always like, skip the webinar. I don't want to wait the 58 minutes to get something of value. So we just dive right in. So it can be overwhelming as a small business owner, right? You're thinking about, oh, the checkout process, oh, my click funnels, oh, my post-purchase process, oh, my product page, right? All this stuff. If you could tell clients to just do one thing to increase the likelihood of their e-commerce conversions, what would you say? What would you tell them to do?
Yeah, I would say make it Homer Simpson simple. And what I mean by that is a lot of times when you do the customer service for your brand, you end up every time someone has a question, you think that that needs to be put on the website. And so you end up putting a whole bunch of stuff on the website and you make the people that do understand online shopping go through a much more convoluted or confusing path, and it ends up hurting conversions.
So it's really that whole KISS, right? Keep it simple, sweetie.
Yes, very much so.
And so with that, do you put that up front and say, hey, we offer XYZ, here's the five things, or do you wait to the bottom of the homepage? What do you do? Like where do people lose their prospective clients?
Yeah, so above the fold, which is when they land on the page before they scroll, we consider that the most important real estate. And so it depends on what page they're landing on. Your homepage is really designed to build trust and then give easy navigation to where they're looking. And if you do that well, that increases your conversions. We've seen as much as 3 to 500%. So
Wow.
really what happens is a lot of times you have what they need, they just can't find it because they have to look through everything. And so we believe that the layout should be a home page, then a filter or a set of filters or a category page. And then from there, you would go to the product page and then the cart and checkout. And so by doing it that way, they kind of make these little micro commitments that help them land on the page that's more accurately for what they're looking for. And when they do that, they convert much higher.
Oh, excellent. And I've still got this visual of Homer Simpson, right? Like the guy wants donuts. Like make it easy to get to the donuts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we always say that each page the should only have one most important action and it should be very obvious. So if it's a button to click, then that button shouldn't blend in with everything else. It should be a different color. So if your theme is black and yellow, you don't want to use black and yellow buttons. You would use green or blue or a different color so that it would stand out. And then that way they would go, oh, okay, when I'm on this page, that button is the next most important thing.
Got it. Now, when we talk about the numbers, and so you said, oh, okay, they can get 300% higher conversion rates up to 500%, a lot of these numbers. So your specialty, as you opened with at the start of the show, is looking at all of that back end data, all those
Right.
numbers.
Yeah.
Do you see clients who don't look at the numbers? And should they look at the numbers if they're not?
Yeah, I would say most don't because if it's not filtered or if it's not cleaned up in a way that's easy to sort through, Google garbage in, garbage out. So if it's just all dumped in there, it makes it very difficult to sort through and do that. So for sure, I think that that's really important because otherwise you're just throwing stuff against the wall and trying to figure out what's working and what's not. Where we can look at the data and see exactly where they're falling off or what step they're not completing. And then we go in and we fix that and keep moving them closer towards the desired action. And the reason why we've been able to do it for 10 years and create predictable success is because that data, when you're making decisions with data, it's very accurate.
I want to talk about the other side of the data, specifically the human side. I'm a data wonk too, PhD scientist, all this sort of good stuff, and can hang with the numbers, but it's about that human connection. And so what have you learned in your journey with Build, Scale, Grow about your clients? Like, talk to us about that because you're dealing with people who have had some success, but they want to get to that next level. Talk to us about that human factor and aspect of your business because I think that's becoming more important.
I think it is, and I would say the one of the most common things that indicates that the brand is going to be successful has to do with their customer service, how well
Mhm.
they do it, and how they treat the person. People still like to deal or do business with people, not with big corporations. And so the relationship that you build with your customers and or even potential customers before they become a customer, the nurture series and things that you do, all matter for the long-term success of the brand. And if you don't do that well, you can have sporadic wins, but it's way less consistent and much harder to build a sustainable company.
Something you mentioned just before we went on the air about the website being that initial conversation. And I think that ties in nicely to what we're saying about the human factor net here. Can you share with our audience a little bit more about what
Yeah.
you were sharing with me?
Yeah, I always say that your website is it's having the conversation with your potential client or your clients when you can't be there. And so if it's not doing a good job of telling them why you're uniquely valuable or how you take care of your people or the quality of your products and what they're made from, all of the things that people need in order to make a buying decision, then it's you're not going to see the same amount of success. If it does a really good job of communicating those things, then it's actually selling for you before you actually get to send an email to them.
And let's talk about trends because I've heard, ClickFunnels were like the e-commerce trend, and that's kind of going south. Not quite the way of Blockbuster or Radio Shack or anything like that, but going south. I've also heard that lead generation on websites is going south. It's more about client cultivation. What are you hearing?
Um, I think probably whoever's trying to come up with the new marketing tactic that they're trying to sell people is going to claim those things. Uh, they're all still working.
Mhm.
It's just they might be they might have found, their legacy clients and that's who they're focused on dealing with. But there's always going to be new ways and new things coming along that will capture people's attention. I think that the truth of the matter is they probably all work. The problem that most entrepreneurs get into is they're on one, and because it's hard or they're struggling with it, they think the other one's going to work better. The grass is greener on the other side, and then they jump, and then they jump, and they never give it enough time to get really good at what they're doing. But we have clients that are doing very, very well with ClickFunnels and doing very, very well with Go High Level and doing very well with Shopify. And so they all work. It's just a matter of the entrepreneur saying, okay, this is my lane. This is what I'm going to get good at. And it doesn't matter if it's going to take me 6 months or 18 months. I'm going to figure it out.
We work with a lot of small businesses who are setting up Go High Levels, Salesforce, HubSpot,
Yep.
all of the other Insightly, Pipedrive, all of the sorts of flavors of all of those kinds of things. And so I want to make it clear, none of them, right, do I have any endorsements for or anything. Uh, they're all good, just depends on what the client needs, right? Some are better than others, depending on where
Yeah,
the
I
client's at.
think depending on what their needs are, some are better than others
Right.
for that particular business or the way that they operate, for sure.
And when you talk about that with the clients and what they're doing as they're setting up their sites, one of the things that I've seen a lot of is clients are just, they're getting overwhelmed. They don't know where to go, what to do. It's too much coming at them. And we all as vendors are like, do this, try this instead, change this. What do you say to all of those folks who are spinning and just having difficulty making a next step decision?
Yeah, I think that's probably why I've leaned so heavily into the data because the truth of the matter is there is like 8 or 10 things that you can always be doing. Uh, the issue is that's really difficult to be sustainable. And so what we're trying to do is find where the break is, fix that first, or a lot of times we'll start at the checkout and really dial that in because that creates more money. And then when you fix the product page, it creates more money. And then when you fix the filter, it creates more money. Where a lot of times I see the owners go, oh, the homepage, it's so important. And that's what they're looking at. And they think that that feels important. But if they make that work better, it just gets more people to the filters or the category page. It doesn't actually make them more money yet. So a lot of times, by looking at the data, you can figure out how to get them more money, which obviously gives them more runway to have a better business downstream.
Right. And that is the goal, right? As much as we all want to have very high levels of customer satisfaction and stuff, even if we were a charity, we want more money. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the goal, right? That's what
yeah,
funds everything.
yeah. I always say profit's not a dirty word.
Exactly, right? And well, I'd say along the same lines, you can blend socialism and capitalism. It's okay to be a social entrepreneur, make money for yourself and do good for the community. It's okay. The two are not mutually exclusive.
100% agree.
And so one of the things I want to, come back to is what you were saying. Okay, first look at maybe the checkout page because that might have the greatest potential for optimization and then also the greatest potential for revenues to come through it.
Yeah,
I also think it speaks back to what you said, like keep it simple, sweetie, right? Just start with one thing
yeah,
on this topic of overwhelm because I see so many small business clients in tears with me. I'm like, we're not going to boil the ocean. We're not going to change 100 things. We're going
right.
to do one thing first.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, we do one thing. They're like, all right, that's working. Look, it's working. Now. So how do you get clients to even recognize that, wow, their website might be the first part of the problem?
Typically the data, I mean, they come to us knowing that
Okay.
their conversions are low or they can't run traffic profitably. I always, our tagline for the first 8, 9 years of our business was traffic's not your problem because
Mhm.
the average website for e-commerce converts around 2%. And so everybody's like, oh, okay, I need more visitors. I need more traffic. I need more traffic. And I just thought to myself, well, if 100 people raised their hand and clicked on an ad or typed something into Google and my site was served and only 98 people are buying, everybody else wants to send another 100 people. I'm thinking, I just want to convert two or three more of those 98 people that left,
Mhm.
and I've doubled my business on the same amount of ad spend. And then I can take advantage of Dan Kennedy's old adage that he who can spend the most money on their traffic or to acquire the customer wins. And so once we started doing that, getting 4 and 5 out of 100 to convert, we've realized that now we can buy media with multiple channels and be profitable to do it when their competitors can't.
Haha, interesting. So going to that next place with competitive advantage. So there's a lot of different ways to do things. And as you said, oh, what's trending, right? It was checkout carts for a while, right? And of course, now click funnels, right? All of these different things. I want to get to AI separately, but what else is trending now that you're seeing?
I guess I would say that e-commerce, the market is maturing to the point where very few of the large companies that we work with do everything in-house anymore. So
Mm,
it's really gotten to the point where they have a team that manages some very high quality vendors, like a media buying team. Um, I would say that's probably one of the last things that you'll do in-house before it outgrows your capabilities. And then for sure, AI is starting to make huge inroads into the ability to build a very big business with a small team. And I don't really see anyone downsizing their team. I see them being able to grow with a smaller team and do a much better job than the way that it used to be because you had to manage a lot of people. And I've always said that most businesses don't have a business problem. There's plenty of people that want their product. They have a people problem.
mm. I want to dig in a little bit about AI because there's so much about it, right? It's everywhere. I think pretty much the world has surrendered. It's here,
Yeah.
right? It's about now, what do you do with it? How do you do it well? What's the impact that it's going to have? There's a lot of those ethical and economical discussions, right, that are going out that's sort of beyond the scope of the show. From an AI perspective and e-commerce and websites and the human connection we talked about, is AI missing the mark? Like if you go to the your favorite AI, generative AI bot and say, "Oh yes, give me some keywords, give me some words," are they missing the mark or are they hitting it? What are you seeing?
I think the people that treat it like an advisor and get really good at having the conversation are doing much, much better and using it in a way that's producing uh, ridiculously good results. I think the people who are a little bit afraid of it or who haven't invested the time to really understand it and treat it like that uh, typically are asking simple questions and getting simple answers and going, oh, well, it's not telling me anything I didn't already know. And so it's going to take some practice, just like anything new. And I do believe that the people that don't use it are going to get run over by the people that are using it.
I do think same things are going to happen, right? It's all about, well, it's going beyond something that's trendy. If it's a technology that's an enabler as powerful as AI or even conceptually as powerful as ClickFunnels and things, and if you're not using it, then you're going to be paddling that much harder to catch up to all the competitors who are.
Yeah, and just damaging a mission for ourselves. We're really, really good at data and analytics and optimizing the customer journey. We're not super great at marketing what we do for a living. And so using AI, now we can write much better things that actually represent the pain points that we take care of. And so that's an example of how AI isn't going to change who you are and how you do business. It's going to change how your customer perceives you if you use it in a way that can create, more relatable marketing materials.
And well, funny, not funny that you say that. First, I appreciate for, your honesty and transparency because I, well, not only can I, but our audience can sniff through any freaking smoke and mirrors, right? It's like,
Sure.
yes, we're making $2 million a day. Like, no, BS, right? No one's going to buy into that. You wouldn't be on my show. You'd be on someone else's really, really huge show, right?
Sure.
Like Stephen Barrett or somebody like that. So great, first of all. Second thing, I think it relates to how all of us as entrepreneurs, we we know what we do, we know our lane, and we can help so many other people with that. But then when it comes to ourselves, it's the cobbler's children has no shoes, not because she doesn't have time to make the children's shoes, but she doesn't know what kind of shoes the children would want or how to go about it, even though she makes shoes for everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And I think the people who aren't willing to admit that really are doing a disservice to others because if we did everything perfect, then nobody would listen to us. They couldn't relate because none of us are. We all have our different areas that we struggle at.
Oh yeah, and it's just I think a key thing too is yes, know your lane, own your lane, experiment, touch the edges of the lane on both sides. I'm all for that. Like I like, living on the edge and the bleeding edge. Like I spent a lot of my career on the never mind leading edge, like bleeding edge, like I'm, over the edge already. But I think, you got to stick to your core, but it's also really good to experiment and go to the sides. Now, another question I like to ask my guests, because I see a lot of younger folks rising up and they're embracing entrepreneurship. Some of them are going down the path of buying brick and mortar and becoming small business owners and retail owners, all that sort of stuff. Okay,
Yep.
great. But I see a lot of gaps in business school curricula. What do you think MBA and even undergraduate, Bachelor of Commerce, economics students should be taught? What's missing from the curriculum?
Mm. Um, I'm not sure that it can be taught in the curriculum. I really think that business is the ultimate inner game. And so it really requires people to develop mental strength and grit because what happens is the business is, depending on where you're at in your life, as it grows, it's going to show you where you're not showing up very well, or it's going to show you where you're not good enough and you
Mhm.
need to improve. And so if you don't have integrity with yourself or the ability to have that hard conversation and push through when it gets difficult, the chances of you being very successful at it are slim to none.
I'm so glad that you said that because that's my soapbox too. I've taught soft skills, I've taught, soft social skills, hard skills. I've taught all of that, leadership, all of that sort of stuff. But when people ask me and say, well, what's one skill that can't be taught? I'm like, grit. You
Yeah.
cannot teach grit. You can teach techniques for resilience and adaptability, but you can't teach grit. You
Yeah.
either have it or you don't.
Yeah, or you develop it. It is a skill. I
Okay,
do believe
fair,
it's a skill.
fair.
And because the other thing is, I've went through periods in my own life where I had lots of grit, and then I went through periods where I was struggling and didn't, and I gave up on stuff easy. And I realized it really does require you to make a conscious decision of, I'm going to do difficult things and understand what it's like to be uncomfortable and to keep going because that's what it's going to require. Uh, Even once your business is successful, you're still going to have periods and things that as markets change or new techniques are introduced, what you were doing isn't going to work as well. And so you have to be very iterative. And I will say that's where that mental toughness and grit tend to really show up in the people that can maintain success and sustain it because they're not stagnant. They literally are getting back down into the trenches or having those hard conversations that it requires as your business changes and iterates.
Oh yeah, it's fall down seven times, get up eight, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's what we all have to do as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And
And if they say they haven't fallen down, they're lying.
well, that's just it, right? It's like I've seen your social media. It is a curated micro slice of what your reality is. Guaranteed, honey. It's not like that.
Yeah.
None of us just woke up like this.
Yeah.
Sorry, right?
Yep.
Same with our businesses. And this is the thing I think if I was asked, okay, what should business schools be doing more of? And just because we share in that whole like grit piece of it, that it isn't all bros and Lambos and just, unicorns that are, tinkling glitter, right? That's not how that works because the pressure never goes away. To your point, when you're starting up as that small business, you're like hustling, hustling, trying to get the sales, trying to get some more sales. And then when you get to that place where you are, like you say, teaching others and build, grow, scale, now you're growing, but you're still going to have issues because now you've got other employees and mouths to feed. So you got to keep that engine going. And then
Yeah.
you're trying to scale. And oh my God, you're trying to do it all efficiently. So you just don't pay 100 people to do it all. So
Right.
the pressure never leaves.
Right. It just changes. It has a different face. Yeah.
That's right. It morphs.
Yeah.
And I wish that business owners would know that. There's many that I've talked to and just like, oh, I thought this would be so much easier. Oh my God, it's killing me. It's so freaking
Yeah.
hard.
I think most business owners had a problem and they solved it. And
Yes.
they a lot of times solved it in a very good way. And so now they want to help other people that had that problem solve it. And when they're doing that, they could be very good at the deliverable, but there's a lot of other surrounding aspects that are required for that deliverable to happen, and they may not be good at those things. We see a lot of doctors are extremely good at their craft, but they're terrible at running a business. And so it just happens to be that, the ones that find the support that essentially, shores them up where they're not great, um, are the ones that actually do very well. And so I think being very honest and again, having that hard conversation with yourself about where you are very good and where you're not very good and find someone that is.
That's so well said because that's just it, right? We can't be masters of everything, right? It doesn't work. We all have gaps
Yeah.
and just trying to find
And the
people
speed
that,
of business now compared to where it was 10 years ago is so much faster that it's really ridiculous if you think that you can do all of it and be at world-class level.
no, you can't even get to average.
Right. I agree with that.
Without, right? Without all the techno automation, without the offshore support, without the inshore and nearshore folks who are helping you do a lot of the heavy lifting, without that, like it's just
Yeah.
it's mind-boggling. Never mind even from 10 years ago, even from 2 or 3 years ago, we just coming out of the pandemic and people were
Yeah.
like, okay, like we did some kumbayaing, it's all good. We got through COVID together, but now it's like, oh, wham, you
Yeah.
know, everybody got hit.
Yeah. Agreed. It
Yeah,
changed it changed overnight, and then 2 years later it changed again
yeah,
overnight. And so
yeah, it's
yeah, there was a lot of whiplash going on.
for sure, right? And we've just seen that whiplash, not just from the, post-COVID and attitudes and ideologies. That all changed and what the expectations were. Then we saw the massive shift in the last, really, especially the last year and a half since the formal launch of ChatGPT, where it went mainstream. I know it was available before. I used it before. And that we saw that. And now, of course, there's all different economic uncertainties, tariffs, if you're in supply chain, like all of this sort of stuff, right? It's just everything's changing every day.
Yeah, the
Nothing.
tariffs are certainly affecting a lot of people that
Oh, yeah.
imported their products. And so that's just, again, like we said, that's another thing that you don't have control over it. But you need to figure out a solution. And that's just the name of business is if there weren't problems, your business wouldn't exist. So really, if you think that you're going to have a business without problems, it's kind of a far-fetched idea.
Right. Yeah. Be adaptive, be responsive. Exactly. So, Matthews, we're just wrapping up our show here. How can people find you?
Our website is buildgrowscale.com, and my email is very simple, just matt@buildgrowscale.com. Go through our website and see what we do. We really optimize the customer's journey so that you get 4 or 5 of those buyers out of 100 instead of 2 or 3, and it makes your business a lot more profitable, a lot more fun.
Excellent. Now, I've got one last question. It's my signature question. We always want to look into the closet of our guests and find out what pair of footwear, sneakers, boots, whatever, personifies who you are. Describe that footwear to us.
Well, I'd say probably tennis shoes. I love to play tennis. I like to exercise, and health is a big part of my life. So I would say probably you're going to find some tennis shoes.
Excellent. So, with that, everyone, thank you for listening here to Matthew Stafford, founder of Build, Grow, Scale. And you can check us out every week. We've got new episodes coming at you. Thank you. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love the conversation.
And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?